Good day, Sir Mark. Today we will be discussing ethics and love, viewing the human person as the center and object of love. What is love? Love does not merely aim at qualities, it aims at the deepest reality of the beloved, a metaphysical core deeper than their visible qualities and characteristics. So love isn't about liking someone's good qualities or appearance. It's about valuing who they truly are deep down inside, beyond what we can see. Love is a motive behind doing good and mainspring of all virtues. So, love is what drives us to do good things. Genuine love prevents harm, as evil action imply hatred or a lack of love. For instance, if you truly love someone, you wouldn't do anything to hurt them. Because when you do, it shows a lack of love. Ethics involves doing good and practicing virtue with love as the motivating force behind ethical behavior. So love is what pushes us to act ethically. Next, love of self and others. Self-preservation is the first law of nature, which means self-love. Acts that harm oneself are morally wrong, violating both the first law of nature and the law of God. Example, suicide. Love is never selfish. It always shares its goodness with others. This means that when you truly love yourself, it doesn't mean you can't love others too. As love isn't selfish, but rather, it entails sharing your kindness and goodness with others. Brotherhood of men under the fatherhood of God means equality and love among men. This idea says everyone should be treated equally and with love, no matter our differences. It's based on the belief that we're all equal in the eyes of God. Many religions and philosophies support this idea, showing how important love and unity are. Next, ethics and justice. Justice is a moral virtue defined as the constant will to give each individual what is due to them, and it embodies rectitude and fairness in human relations. It means being fair and right in how we treat others. It's about giving people what they deserve, both in terms of right and responsibilities. On the other hand, injustice involves violating the rights of others. Attributes of justice. Universality requires that justice applies to all without exception. It means it applies to everyone, not just certain groups, and everyone should get what they deserve. 2. Equality demands that justice is equal for all without discrimination, regardless of status or background. This means that everyone should be treated fairly under the law without discrimination, regardless of their status in society. The universal principle of justice is reflected in the Golden Rule, which says, "Do unto others as you wish others to do unto you," or "Do not do unto others what you do not want to be done unto you." In short, treat others the way you want to be treated. This rule is basis for many laws and principles, including religious commandments like 10 Commandments. For example, action like killing, lying, stealing, etc. are wrong because they harm others, and we wouldn't want those things done to us. Legal maxims also apply this some principle. For example, no one can exercise his rights in violation of the rights of others. So, we should respect others, rights as we sh- as we would want others to be respected. 2. Judgment shall be rendered against anyone else unless he has been heard. This emphasizes the importance of allowing everyone an opportunity to present their perspective before making any judgments. 3. No one should unjustly favor himself at the expense of another. This implies not unfairly prioritizing yourself if it means someone else suffers as a result. Kind of like being fair to everyone involved. In line with these principles, we also have the Bill of Rights. Bill of Rights, these are fundamental rights like to right to life, liberty, and pursuit happiness. The Bill of Rights ensures that everyone is treated with dignity and respect under the law, leading to a fairer and more equitable society where everyone's worth is valued and protected. Justice doesn't only apply to individual relations, but also to duties of the citizen, or distributive justice. Example include the government providing aid for education, promoting social justice, and protecting labor rights. 2. Duties of the individual to the state or legal justice. Example, citizen rendering military service. 3. Duties of individual to another or cumulative justice. Every individual shouldn't give others what rightfully belongs to them, based on mutual rights and duties. Rights of the individual. Self-defense. Under the certain condition, it's morally justified to kill an unjust aggressor in self-defense. The right to life allows for self-defense when needed. Killing an unjust aggressor may be morally permissible if there is imminent danger of losing life or a great bodily possessions. For example, if someone is about to seriously hurt or kill you, it might be okay to defend yourself by hurting or stopping them first. 2. There is no other way of escape. So if you can't get away from situations safely, you might have to use force to protect yourself. 3. No greater force can be inflicted than what is required toward of aggression. In this case, you should only use as much force as needed to stop the attack. You shouldn't hurt the attacker more than necessary to protect yourself.
Honor and good name. Honor is one of the greatest possessions that a man has, and intentionally harming someone's good reputation is a serious violation of moral law. Speaking or writing falsehood to ruin someone's reputation violates principles of love and justice. Example, libel, written defamation, and slander, spoken defamation, where false statements are made about someone that harm their reputation. But whether they are based on truth or not, libel and slander are morally wrong because of their malicious intent to harm another reputation. Extortion is a form of extortion where money is demanded to prevent the publication of damaging information about someone, which also involves the malicious intent of libel. Truthfulness or veracity is a duty of love towards others. Moral truth is the conformity between what one says and what one has in mind, while lying is telling an untruth. Lying is intrinsically wrong. It is against the natural purpose of speech. The power of speech were given to us to be able to live and communicate with others. However, lying goes against this purpose because it distorts communication, making it harder for people to trust in each other and live harmoniously or peacefully. Lying tends to disturb the social order, because if men lie, there will be no more mutual trust, which is the very basis of harmony and peace in social life. Lying does violence to man's social nature and therefore is against the moral law. Mental reservation involves making a statement that would seem a lie without qualification but would not be a lie with the proper qualification reserves in one's mind. It's like expressing something that appears untrue, yet you hold a concealed part of the truth in your mind that you don't openly reveal. Mental reservation is not a lie and therefore does not share in the malice of a lie. So in someone case, if it's fair and wise, holding back certain information in your mind isn't considered lying and isn't as bad as a lie. Example of a mental reservation. In court, saying not guilty when you now know you're guilty isn't necessarily lying. It's based on the legal idea that everyone is assumed innocent until proven otherwise. A priest may say, I cannot tell, when asked about confessions, and a doctor may reassure a nervous patient by saying, you should not worry, or you'll be better if you don't worry, with those enclosed in parentheses only in the doctor's mind. It is wrong to make a mental reservation when one is obliged to tell the truth, as when a boy is asked by his father if he took money from his pocket, simply saying no, while thinking it was his hand and not him who took it is not acceptable. Family and social ethics. Social ethics starts with family ethics because the family is the fundamental unit of society. Proper family relations require respect and love for authority, with children obligated to respect, obey, and love their parents. This helps maintain harmony in the family and sets a good example for behavior. The primary goal of family life is the proper upbringing of children, emphasizing their training and education at home and in school. This highlights the responsibility of parents to nurture and guide their children towards becoming responsible and ethical members of society. Juvenile delinquency, a significant problem in society, stems from the losing of moral discipline among youth, primarily due to the lack of neglect of moral guidance and training from parents. Juvenile delinquency refers to young people engaging in illegal and antisocial behavior. It often happens when children lack strong moral guidance from their parents. This lack of guidance can cause a lot of issues in society, like more crime and other problems. Parents must prioritize the moral training of their children alongside their physical and intellectual well-being. This involves imparting moral values through consistent teaching and setting a positive example for their children to follow. Divorce is morally wrong as it destroys family unity, breaks solemn promises made in marriage, the spirit of the holds the family together, goes against the primary purpose of marriage, and separates what nature has welded together. Birth control. Two types of birth control. Natural birth control includes methods like continence and the rhythm method. Artificial birth control includes mechanical condoms, chemical birth control pills, or surgical means to prevent conception or interfere with the natural process of reproduction. Sexuality can be considered on a twofold level. On a pure biological, psychological level, sexuality involves the natural inclination of two sexes towards each other and the creation of offspring. So imagine that nature has built into man and woman a strong desire to be together and have babies. It's like they're naturally drawn to each other for this purpose. Sexual differentiation in plants, animals, and humans indicates a complementary role in production of offspring and perpetuating the species. Just like in plants, animals, and humans, the differences between the males and females are there to help them make babies and keep their species going. It's like each gender has its own role in the process. Birth control is considered unnatural at this level because it disrupts the natural purpose of sexual union, which is production. When people use birth control, it goes against this natural plan because it stops them from having babies when they're together. It's like interrupting a process that meant to create new life. B. On a psychological level, sexuality is in marriage goes beyond mere biology and is influenced by human rationality and emotions. So it's not just about the physical aspects, it's also about the thoughts and feelings that go along with it. Sexual union has a deeper meaning involving mutual self-giving and conjugal love between spouses. In marriage, sexual union becomes more than just making babies. It's about giving yourself fully to your partner out of love. Sexual intercourse becomes a meaningful expression of personal love and openness to offspring, symbolizing the creation of a new life and strengthening the marital bond. So it's a way for couples to express deep love and commitment while also being open to having children. This strengthens their bonds and signifies the potential for creating new life together. Considering this, contraception highlights a contradiction in this expensive expression of love. Contraception undermines the true meaning of sexual union and love. Because by using contraceptive methods, individuals reject the full giving of themselves to their spouse and to potential offspring. This refusal to fully commit leads to a distortion of the act of love, resulting in a mere pursuit of pleasure rather than genuine union and openness to life. Limiting family size through natural methods like periodic continence, devoid or contraceptive intentions is morally acceptable as it maintains the meaning of sex union and openness to offspring. Artificial birth control is considered unethical as it undermines conjugal love and the purpose of human sexual relations. So when it comes to controlling family size, using natural methods is seen as morally okay, while using artificial birth control is considered unethical. While certain types of contraceptive pills may be considered licit for medical purposes like regulating abnormal cycles, those primarily aimed at inhibiting ovulations may not be considered permissible by moral theologians. So using the pills for medical reasons is seen as acceptable and in line with Catholic moral theology. However, using it solely to prevent ovulation, even for valid reasons to avoid pregnancy, is still not considered permissible by moral theologians. Pope Paul VI emphasized in Humanae Vitae Article 14 that direct interruption of the generative process, including abortion and sterilization, is illicit for regulating birth. So Pope Paul VI stressed that it's wrong to stop the natural process of having children, which includes abortion and sterilization, to control birth. The Church, including Pope John Paul, maintains oppositions to contraception and abortion, emphasizing the sacredness of human life from conception, condemning any attempts to destroy it as a violation of God's gift and the moral order. So the Church, including Pope John Paul, is against contraception and abortion, stressing that human life is sacred from the very start. It defends the right to the life, acknowledging God as the source of life and the value of every individual.